Hello again. Okay, so last video we talked about the Plague of Hail. Then about 2 nights later we had a hailstorm come through and got me thinking about something that I hadn't thought about in the last video. Now, like I said, storm came through. Looking out the window, there were some hailstones maybe twice as big as I'd seen in the past ever before. Still not very big. Um, Definitely not plague-sized hailstones. But we had this hail falling and bouncing off the windows and rattling the aluminum siding and making all sorts of noise. Got me to thinking, okay, how's my house going to stand up to this? And no damage, fortunately. But that's one thing don't think about when we read the Bible, is how much damage did the Plague of Hail do to the Egyptians? Now, they were told, or the Egyptians were told, bring your livestock and your servants inside, otherwise you'll die. So I'm assuming that no houses fell down. Otherwise, bringing your livestock and servants inside would make no difference. But even then, did some research, and houses were primarily made of sun-baked clay or sun-baked mud, bricks. And so, how much would that stand up against hailstones, especially hailstones that can destroy a tree? Don't know. Again, I'm assuming no houses were destroyed just because, God said you'd be safe if you stayed inside. But that doesn't mean that houses didn't take damage. I assume a hailstone that can destroy a tree can probably crack a brick. Maybe not break it completely, but at least crack it. Maybe there were holes in some roofs or holes in some walls. There was no complete destruction of houses, but there might have still been a lot of home repairs needed after the Plague of Hail. Just wanted to bring that up because, again, we had a hailstorm come through the day after I made that video. Day after or 2 days after, I forget when exactly, but and it just got me. This is one thing we don't think about, Bible specifically says, take your servants and livestock inside, and it specifically says what happened to plant life. It doesn't say what happened to buildings. So, just thought I'd bring that up, and again, were there afterthoughts or after effects of any of these plagues, and having to repair your house would be an after effect of that one. So we come to the next one, which is the Plague of Locusts. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh, and for I have hardened his heart, and the heart of his servants, that I might shew thee my signs before him. So we saw, some of his servants were like, okay, let's take the animals inside because Moses said to. And so now we're seeing that the servants' hearts are hardened too. This goes back slightly to what I said, did time, just enough time pass by that people forgot. And that thou mayest tell in all the ears of thy sons and of thy sons' sons which things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know how that I am the Lord. So this is getting into, as we approach Passover, there are things, why do we keep this day? Well, this is because, the Lord brought us out of Egypt and did all these signs and wonders. And so he's now starting to tell them, you're going to tell your children about this in the future. And Moses and Aaron came unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locusts unto thy coast. And they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth, unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. So locusts had, there had probably been locust swarms in the past. This one's going to be bigger than anything we've ever seen before. And Pharaoh's servant said unto him, How long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the man go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? So we just had, the hearts of some of his servants at least were hardened. And we got other ones saying, okay, Moses is back talking, and it's never a good thing when Moses comes to talk to Pharaoh, so come on, maybe we should start listening again. And Moses and Aaron were brought again unto Pharaoh, and he said unto them, Go, serve the Lord your God, but who are you that shall go? So we're back to this whole, I'm not going to let everyone go, just some of you. Moses said, We shall go with our young and with our old, and with our sons and with our daughters, and our flocks and with our herds. Will we go? We must hold a feast unto the Lord. And he said unto them, Let the Lord be so with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones look to it, for evil is before you. Now go. Not so. Go now, ye that are men, and serve the Lord, for that ye did desire. And they were driven from Pharaoh's presence. So, who's going? Everyone's going. No, leave the kids behind. And Moses says, nope, everyone's going. So they got kicked out, basically. Now, so we're back again to this whole negotiation of who's going and who's staying. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb that the land, even all that the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land, all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. So here we have, God's not just alakazam locusts appear. He's actually gathering them, having the wind blow them in. And it takes, a little over a day, tonight and tomorrow, or however it's phrased. And this, I just bring this up because we've seen the similar things before. The frogs came out of the river. Now, the Nile River is a long river, so did God just create frogs and they came out of the river and just sort of this little cycle going on? Or did they swim up from downstream or upstream or neighboring nations and then come ashore? And we have all sorts of interesting things going on. We got as someone who plays role-playing games, I'm sort of like considering this to different magic. And so we have transformation magic. Water turned to blood. Dust turned to lice. In this case, it would be some sort of summoning. And again, it's not creating frogs and locusts from thin air. It's bringing them from elsewhere and having them come. Interesting thought I had was, what happened, to the neighboring nations? Did they have a springtime with fewer locusts? And so their crops did a little better because all their locusts were blown into Egypt? Again, we don't know. That would be the sort of thing, historically, maybe one or two people might write down there are fewer locusts this year. If they did, then those records didn't survive, so we don't have them to compare. Um, that's an interesting thought I had was how did this plague affect the nations around Egypt? Because it clearly says the locusts were brought from elsewhere. Uh, and it's eating stuff. So that's back to the hail destroyed the herb of the field and the trees, and so we're back to this matter of time. How much time has passed because stuff has had time to grow. Um, Now, I pointed out last time, it's talked about the flax and the barley were in the bowl, so they were destroyed by the hail. The wheat and the rye were still haven't come up yet. So, were the locusts eating the wheat and the rye? And if they were, then this plague is happening sometime mid to late June, which means that since the Passover happens slightly before the barley harvest, we've got two more plagues to come, and Passover's 8 months away. So it goes back to the idea, how much time is passing between plagues, and we don't know. Doesn't really tell us, but we do get these little hints which suggest, maybe some time did pass. And back to the question of how did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Did he mind control Pharaoh and make him be a jerk, or did he just let time pass and Pharaoh, did what comes naturally to people and forgot? All sorts of little questions come up that the Bible doesn't explain, but are worth considering. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coasts of Egypt. So, east wind brought them in, west wind take them out, and this time they all just died in the sea. So, if they did come from neighboring nations, then they weren't returned to the neighboring nations. They were just drowned. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. And then we are going to start on the 9th plague after that. But so we're coming up with questions like how much time passed between plagues, a legitimate question to ask. And again, God hardening Pharaoh's heart and then punishing the Egyptians for it seems like a cruel thing to do. Unless, like I said, his nature, the nature in which he hardened his heart was to let time pass. And again, we could go through other verses in the Bible where hardening of the heart just means forgetting God, basically. So it would make sense, time passes, Pharaoh forgets what's going on, his heart is hardened, and so we would have the 10 plagues possibly taking a year or longer to take place. Because again, like I said before, we can sit down and we can read the story in a half hour, and all 10 plagues, boom, 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 one right after another. But the Bible doesn't necessarily say that's how it happened. So just something to consider. Starts to make things a little more realistic. Makes God seem a little more fair. And points out we make a lot of assumptions, and so we should be careful. That one of the reasons I decided to do the 10 plagues was just to point out some of these gaps, and just to show we make a lot of assumptions when we study the Bible, and maybe we shouldn't. So that's it. Have a nice day.